Jeremy Swayman has spoken out on his brand new self heading into this season with quotes coming about Marco Sturm, as well as this new identity from him and this team. We're going to be breaking that down, as well as going over Fabian Lysell and what his quotes are in today's interview and what could be a make or break season for his career. We're going to be breaking it down, going over all the news here in this video. Before we do jump into it, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins, and we are now just over a month away from Bruins puck drop. We have a lot of news to cover in that time, as Bruins training camp and practices are starting to ramp up. You won't want to miss it. We're on the road to 8K, and we're so close. So if you haven't already, do us a favor, hit that sub button. You can change your mind whenever. But let's jump straight into this. I first want to start out with Jeremy Swayman, as he had a lot of interesting quotes heading into today, and through his kind of media availabilities through multiple different outlets today. And I'm going to start off with this from Connor Ryan. A lot of this comes from Connor Ryan, so once again, a big thank you to him for being able to put this all out for us Bruins fans to read out. Now, going into the season, Jeremy Swayman, on where he's at when he's talking compared to last fall, we know it wasn't a great start last year with the contract negotiations and really only getting on the ice with the team only a few days before the season started. Now, this is what Jeremy Swayman said. I'm a completely different human being. Sitting here, Jeremy Swayman is in a great spot. I love the reference in third person to himself, and I'm really excited about that. Now, Jeremy Swayman, of course, seems to be on a new level here. He definitely was frustrated last year, and I feel like that's no surprise to absolutely anybody watching this video now or watching these videos throughout the season last year. He was not the Jeremy Swayman that we signed to a 8-year, $66 million deal. And going into this year and heading into the season, he knew that he had to really kind of ramp up where he was going, as he was in so many trade talks with the Edmonton Oilers, with a few other teams, but realistically, that possibility is still there if things do not go the Bruins' way this year regarding Jeremy Swayman. I don't want to jump into that, though, because he certainly seems to at least have acknowledged what was going on last year, that things were not going his way, things were not going really the Bruins' way, but there he is, sitting now. He's a brand new person, so we're going to see how that goes, but I do like that he's coming out with this, really putting, like, he actually believes this in it, and of course, we know he does, and now he just really has to prove it to us that he's the same guy that brought us to a very good playoff run a couple seasons ago. Now, he had a lot more quotes with that, and of course, there was lots of questions coming out, and Connor Ryan, once again, on Jeremy Swayman's chats with Marco Sturm, when he said he's a great leader, we're excited for him, I'm excited for him, I think we have a really good formula. So Swayman, once again, really one of the only players thus far, of course, with a few other people that have spoken about Marco Sturm as of late, and we're going to be getting a lot more of that over the next coming, days and weeks when we start to get more players, more people into these interviews and asking certain kind of questions like this from the media. So this is another great start. We're hearing only good things about Marco Sturm, which is really what we expected. He's going to be a very good coach for this team. The way that his role in the Ontario Reign system fit, it made a lot of sense for the Bruins even before he was signed and, of course, acquired by this team to be the head coach. And when he was in the contract negotiation phase, things seemed to be kind of rolling into the direction of a Marco Sturm. But the fact that Jeremy Swayman is one of these players as well that have said only positive about him, and, we're not going to see no negative anyways, but this all seems very from within about Marco Sturm, and he really cares about this team. And I think like that is just another example of how we're seeing this here with Jeremy Swayman today. So continuing on, it's just some very good news regarding this whole thing. Now, going in, once again, Swayman had this to say as well. But when the question was asked, what did he change this offseason? Because stuff had to change. There was no doubt about that. Things had to change coming from last year. He said he changed about his training, everything. So he didn't give too much detail on this. He didn't really give any detail at all, actually, but we can assume now that things are going to be heading in a much different direction for Jeremy Swayman. He loved to have fun. We saw that. We know that. We still want him to have fun, of course. You're playing your best game when you're having fun. When you're having fun, that's just the way that you want to have. Yes, it's their job, but it's also still something they love doing. They wouldn't be doing it if they hated. But going on with Jeremy Swayman right now, saying he changed everything, I really wonder what this is, and I feel like we're going to get a good look at this, and I wonder if it is taking it more seriously than he, may have before, and I think he already did take it seriously, very seriously before as well, but heading into the season now, I'm just very curious to see how things have changed on that front, how things may have changed on, his actual training on and off ice, and of course, he's still off season. Doesn't specify which, but I think we're going to see Jeremy Swayman come into the season with a different mindset. Not just a different mindset, but also kind of a new kind of outlook on this team, because when we're taking a look at it, and realistically, a lot of these longer tenured Bruins players, this is the first time they've been on a team that may have not been, a playoff team, a very good team. So this is a big experience and kind of learning, bump through a lot of these players here. So I'm going to take this as some very good news from Jeremy Swayman. And of course, it's hard to be not positive about him after what we saw last year. There's only going up. There's no going down. You really can't go down from where we were last year. So I'm excited to see Swayman back on the ice with this team and really get underway and see what he looks like on the ice. From a goalie myself, you can kind of pick out where things are going on and off. So I'm excited to see how things do work out with that. And of course, as we saw last season, I did want to pull up his playoff stats as well. I know it was a bit small. I do apologize, but it just goes to show how consistent, how good he's literally been and reliable over the past couple years. And, just knowing that we can get back to this point. He's only 26 years old. He has a lot of time left, and he's in, just starting the peak of his career. So, Jeremy Swayman, we're going to see a very good one. And as I mentioned about my predictions for this Bruins team here heading into the season, Jeremy Swayman's really going to rely on this team to be a postseason team. And I need him on my side to be able to have this prediction right, because if we don't, we may see a very similar season to last year, but I only see positivity here from this. So I want to know what you guys think about these Jeremy Swayman quotes. They're obviously a little bit different compared to a lot of these other players that we've seen so far, but I think it's only positive. That just seems like Jeremy Swayman to me, at least, and coming with these quotes seems to care a lot more about what's going on right now at this period in time compared to the difficulty in the contract negotiation last off-season. Now, he wasn't the only one that spoke out today. Fabian Lysell was also asked a few questions as well in a what is, I'm not going to say what may be, what is going to be a make-or-break year for Fabian Lysell on this team. Now, he came out and said this when asked about the question of what he worked on the off-season. He said, last summer I was building muscle and strength. This summer it was more a progression towards power and speed, and my body feels fresher. He also said the NHL experience last season has motivated him and showed him what to focus on. Now, going into this season for Fabian Lysell, this is really, not something that's going to happen mid-season. This is going to really have an impact on him right away in training camp. When this team really gets chosen and who will make the roster, he's going to have a lot to work on. And I think that he's going to need to work on a little bit more than just, just power and speed and, the progression towards that. He's going to need to combine everything that he has to make this team. And I really have high hopes for Fabian Lysell. I really do. And the point where we're at now, they're slowly falling because he's not really yet been able to make this team apart from last year where we really had nobody on the team that was going at all. But heading into the season, the acquisitions this team made, and heading into what is going to be a very different year for this Boston Bruins team, and Marco Sturm on this team, now as a head coach, is a coach that develops these types of players. So it seems like it's a season that really will make or break Fabian Lysell, because when you take a look at the lineup right now, I don't really know where he's going to fit in right away. Mikey Eyssimont, Tanner Jeannot, John Beecher, Sean Crowley, those players here have been here for a couple seasons. Just gotten here, apart from John Beecher, who may also be shipped out, and as we spoke about earlier in the offseason a couple weeks ago, he may be someone that not even make this team off the jump. And we see Matt Poitras there on the right side, as well as Mark Kastelic, two players that very well can play center, likely will as well at some point. There is an open spot for Fabian Lysell there as well. So, there's a few options. There's not as much as I think Fabian Lysell would like, but he knows he's going to have to work to get into this team. And this is going to be an interesting year for him going forward. And Connor Ryan also had this for the expectations for training camp for Fabian Lysell. He said, for me, I just want to show that I'm an older player in such a way that I can take more responsibility on the ice, which is something that I feel like we've heard for multiple years now at this point. But Fabian Lysell on a make-or-break year is going to be an interesting one, and not too much coming up from him apart from these kind of updates for on the side of what he's changed and going forward. But will that be enough, I think, is the big question heading there, and I want to know what you guys think as well in the comments below. But that is all I have in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.